Let me go to Kenny Deery, who's the Chief Executive of Galway Chamber, and he joins me on the line today. And because today's the magical day we've all been waiting for. And Kenny, good morning to you.
Good morning, Keith.
Thanks for joining us today. Now, there's two aspects of what we're going to talk about today. We'll be looking at transport in the midst of this as well, by the way, with Bus Éireann. But there's two aspects. First off, it's good news for click and collect and for those that can dine outside and all of that. But there's still a body of work to be done to support these people.
There certainly is. I think what we're seeing today is more of the phased choreography of getting back to some degree of what normal will look like. And for, let's say, the personal services, I know is something that many people have been missing, and many of those businesses have been buying to get back because their doors have been shut for 5 months. So today is the day that we see many of those reopen: museums, galleries, libraries, click and collect in retail, and appointments. So it's good news from a point of view of those sectors and those businesses. And there's a couple of dates that are really important. You've today, you've next week, the 17th of May, where we'll see a broader reopening of retail. And then into the 2nd of June, we'll see some degree of more hospitality. And then the 7th of June, we're going to see more in the outdoor dining space, restaurants. Now, obviously, there's many sectors are still vying for changes around the guidelines and the criteria for which they can reopen. But certainly, we have to be optimistic and we're on the right road.
I was in town, I'd say one of the few Saturdays I've been in town indeed during this whole pandemic. But I was in town on Saturday for a walk around, went to the market and got some bits and pieces and walked through town. We need footfall in town, Kenny, that the figures must be through the floor. And it's very, very sad to see Galway so quiet. So hopefully this morning will be the beginning of this new life coming back in to the heart of Galway City.
It will. I think the biggest thing once you're walking around and you just see shutters closed, and it just adds a gloom, and also the public realm or the physical appearance of buildings even themselves look a little drabber than they should be. I think what we're going to see today is energy. You'll see on many of the streets and side streets off the city centre and indeed within our towns around the county. Once you have salons and barber shops and those types of activities open, you're going to see an increase in footfall. But the significant piece, Keith, you referred to at the beginning, is let no one be off guard and think it's great businesses are reopened, supports can stall. Now they're needed more than ever because you have businesses taking on either returning staff members who haven't been working for months, but also taking on new staff members. There's investment in training, there's investment in PPE, there's investment in making sure that those premises meet the criteria. And also, it's going to take months, if not years, to replenish some of the cash flow and some of the money that has been lost during this time. Because remember, many of these businesses were still paying rent, are still funding their mortgages, and have a whole plethora of other costs. So I think today is great that we're seeing it reopen and gradually over the next few weeks more. But at Chambers Ireland and through Galway Chamber, we've been very strongly advocating and engaging with our local elected representatives and indeed the Minister for Finance and Minister for Enterprise, Trade and Employment to really say now we need to give businesses some certainty as to how they can plan their cash flow to onboard more staff over the next few months. And that's not something, I know one item was announced over the weekend by Twitter, and that's maddening to businesses because you can't keep abreast of the drip feed of information. So what we're looking for is one final draft of this is the next range of support and these are the qualifying criteria so people know where they stand over the next 6 months, and I think that'll be really important.
Absolutely. But can I go back to what is available then today? So hairdressers, beauty salons, all of those, again, under a controlled appointment system, they can reopen. We're looking at shops being able to do click and collect, or some are doing by appointment, I believe, as well. And we're looking at outdoor dining. We're looking at restaurants that can facilitate outdoor dining, outdoor dining as of today.
But that's been I think first of all on the appointment system, some businesses and indeed customers are actually really enjoying the appointment system that they've had over the last few weeks, and I think people have got more used to that. So that's a more wide scale today. And just one item on the outdoor dining, I was looking at it myself, and it's very easy to get confused. So what we're seeing is more premises are open for takeaway and click and collect, and some you'll see around the city. There's benches beginning to appear and there's outdoor seating areas, and that's being used. And I know myself, I enjoyed a couple of lunches around town last week and out in Salt Hill. Any available flat bit of wall space was indeed being used to balance the tea and the coffee and the sandwich on, and that's great to see. What we're officially going to have, though, is for the wider thrust of restaurants, outdoor dining as of now isn't officially to be in place until the 7th of June. And that's something that's causing quite a bit of angst for a number of reasons. One, there are restrictions in terms of the numbers. Two, as we know, the weather, and I got 2 fine drenchings myself over the weekend. The supportiveness of the weather towards that is going to be challenging. So I know certainly there's strong lobbies looking to change that, and I think over the next few weeks we'll see some modifications there. But also, if we look around our city centre, and I know the local authority, Galway City Council, have been doing a fairly decent amount of work in terms of talking to each business, trying to figure out who will be allocated what bit of space. And we're going to see some changes to the flow of our city centre, I think, in terms of one-way systems and the narrowing of certain streets so that parking spaces and additional lanes can be reallocated towards some degree of each restaurant or each cafe having a chunk of space that they can call their own from a point of view of outdoor dining. And I think that's going to be the interesting bit, to see how well we're able to deliver that, and as a city, how well we work together, because this is going to require the business community to really cooperate with each other. It's going to require many residential properties just going, I know it's easy to say going with the flow, but one of the things we don't want to do is getting into an objection system. We're going to have 3 months for businesses to potentially, particularly in the restaurant and cafe sector, to try and generate trade through the summer. So we'd be calling, from a chamber perspective, we'd be supporting the plans that are afoot with the local authority in terms of trying to bring in more parklets, more outdoor spaces. As I said, there will be a bit of a reorientation of the flow of the city, and that's not a bad thing. I think we're asking people to be patient with it, and let's support the business community as we try and have some degree of a summer and allow them trade and build up their coffers.
Can you clarify for me then, just very quickly, 7th of June is when all outdoor catering can open. So what can open today then? Is it just takeaway stuff from the regulars?
It's the takeaway from the regulars, and what we're seeing is, as I say, more have got a little more creative, and even if we're looking at social media over the weekend, I know more properties have plans in place where there will be outdoor benches and seating areas close to restaurants, and that's how would I put it? That's available to the public at the moment. As I say, the official outdoor dining and restaurants, I'm just looking here at the government website, is from the 7th of June, where outdoor services can resume to groups limited to 6 people. But for now, what has been happening is I think we're going to see a continuation of it and an expansion of it over the coming weeks, where more and more places are serving for click and collect takeaway service. And if the weather is good, people will be sitting along a wall or sitting out at the benches that are being provided. Okay,
so I mean the likes of Quay Street will not have full restaurant service outside or anywhere else indeed in the city until the 7th of June.
Correct.
Okay.
And a lot of work is taking place between now and then to try and facilitate the space that they'll need to have a viable operation, that there's enough tables that makes it work, but yet not too much that one is overtrading and the ones next door can't get any tables out there. So that's the bit of magic that's taking place at the moment in terms of those negotiations. I think it's going to be a work in progress moving forward, so I do, Kenny. It's going to be, do you know what, one of the things we found last year, Keith, from a Galway point of view, and it was great to see, is the business community, big and small, have really, really worked together.
Yeah.
And people are sharing information. Some businesses were sharing staff, sharing expertise, and trying their best to adhere to the restrictions on a best endeavours basis. And I know some groups had been marginalised initially. I know there was a particular campaign with Access for All, for example. The city hadn't reopened, but there wasn't due consideration to those with maybe specialised means of getting about. And bit by bit, we've been learning and working together. And hopefully what we're going to see, Keith, over the next 4 weeks as well, is the city and the business community in the city and across the county really working together to support each other.
Someone wants to know, we asked Kenny, when can we dine indoors? Thank you. I'd say that's going to be
not clear, and the subject of many rumbles at the moment. And to be fair, when you look at it, like, hotels will be reopening on the 2nd of June fully. Obviously, some are open for essential services at the moment. And one of the debates that are taking place there is someone can sit inside a restaurant in a hotel and they have that clarity from the 2nd of June, but yet you don't from a restaurant. And I know that that's going to be the subject of much debate over the next couple of weeks. So that's yet to be confirmed.
All right.